Welcome, nature journaling friends. I am going to be painting one of the pictures that you're going to see in this booklet. It's something that I uploaded recently to my website, and I ended up putting it on the website before doing a video explaining it. So we're doing that belatedly. But this basically has a lot of fun things in it for nature journalers, especially the last two spreads. And I'll talk a little bit about what's on them. The document itself, the PDF, comes with instructions on how to fold it. And I am going to paint that cactus today. So for this booklet, I ended up creating all of these pictures at twice the size that they would be needed for the booklet so I could reduce them down. They would look more detailed. So these are the original paintings that I scanned in order to put into the booklet. I picked some subjects that were from all different places as opposed to everything being where I live. So it would be all evergreen trees if I did that. But these are all elements that are in the book. And I originally sketched everything out in the context of the book. I kind of wrote up the booklet and then blew up the pictures. I drew little tiny sketches so then I could work from those. These are also from photographs. So, combined with that, um, I was able to do a lot of fun things. Now, this one, I debated whether to use the one that had the lines in it in the background or whether I would just paint it. And I ended up just painting it. And that came out well enough that I didn't use the one with the lines. But this one was the only one that I filmed. The rest of it I was just kind of working on the sofa. And the colors that I'm using are the ones that were in the Watercolor Limericks zine that I talked about a month ago. And I thought for some beginners who might not know this might be a money saving thing for you. If you don't have a palette or don't have money for a palette, you don't need a palette in order to watercolor. This is a tile that I got at the hardware store of all places. And it's in the tiles, the flooring section, and I got it for about $1. Depending on what size you get, they'll be for anywhere from like 85 cents to $1.50 maybe. And I keep this one around. I actually keep a couple of them around. Some of them I have gouache on, some of them I have watercolor on if I was doing a special project, because you can save this paint and use it again. So I had used this like a month and a half before I ended up painting this cactus, and the paint is perfectly good to use again. And, kind of worked out pretty good because the colors were roughly what I needed. I needed a light pink, it's opera pink. I needed a darker red, which is Carmine. And then I've got some Hooker's green in there, a couple of yellows that were in the watercolor zine. And I can use this as a palette. And then if I get down to the place where there's not very much of anything left, I could throw it in the dishwasher. Or if, just some of them are gone and I want to wipe them off, I can use a baby wipe and just clean off part of it and leave the blob of another color there. When I got done with this, I still had more color, so I'll use this again for something else. But that's a way that you can use your tubes of paint, just squeeze out a little bit onto a tile and not have to go and get yourself a palette. You could also squeeze out some colors like this on a really small one, because they do make much smaller tiles than this, and then take that out nature journaling with you. It would just be a little square something, I think they come in this one I believe is 4x4, but you can get little 2x2s or long skinny ones. So whatever might work for you, whatever might fit into your little bag, you could just squeeze out some paints that you think you might use when you're out nature journaling and carry that with you if you don't have a mini palette to use. Because a lot of people don't want to go out painting because their palette is big or they have a giant ceramic one or something. This is just a nice, really simple way to do that for $1. So that's the thing. Now, all of these I drew in pen and ink first and then painted them, as you can see here. Most of the time when I do wash and ink, especially when I'm doing my nature journaling, I will do the watercolor first so that I can get all loose and splashy and kind of, make the petals of the flowers go anywhere. I can change the shapes of the pads, all that kind of stuff. super fun to do. And then after it's all done, I go back and clean it up by adding lines, because that allows me to tidy up some edges. If there's some places where something splooged and a petal got a little bigger, nobody's going to know that. So that's perfectly fine. But in this particular case, I went the other way around. I did the pen and ink first, and I did do it on cold press watercolor paper. Now, again, when I do, wash and ink stuff, a lot of people will ask, did you do that on cold press? I've actually done wash and ink on even rough paper because it will work. Now, the difference is if you've tried it and your lines get almost pixelated, so you just get more of a dotted line rather than a regular line, that could be because of the pen you're using. If you're using something that has, like if it's a 1-point pen, so a nice big chunky type of pen, and you're not using enough pressure and you're working on a bumpy paper, yes, the pen is going to skip across the top. I was using a fine point fountain pen. Yeah, I knew it started with an F. I was using a fountain pen, and that's going to work perfectly on even a rougher paper. So I can definitely recommend doing that. The pen and ink will work, but it just needs to not be a really fat pen. So any of the more fine pens will work just great. So having done the pen and ink work first, it was much easier to paint all this hooker's green around each one of those little spikes. Now, a fun fact about the prickly pear cactus. The pads that are on here, these big flat things on a cactus, are actually not the leaves. If you think of them kind of as leaves, they are the branches. And you know what the leaves are? All the little spikes, all those little pink spikes. Those are modified leaves, just like the pads are modified branches. That's how the water kind of goes throughout the plant. So pretty cool, huh? And also the pads and the flowers are edible. And according to the Googles, the bright, juicy fruits are known as tunas in Spanish. They taste like a sweet blend of watermelon, berries, and bubblegum. And the flat, paddle like cactus pads are prepared as a vegetable, and they're called nopales, I think, Nopales. And they taste similar to green beans. So if you are visiting the Southwest of America or anywhere in the world where they have cactus, give it a try. So next up, I'm going to make the shadow color for the greens. And I made that using complements. Complements are opposite each other on the color wheel. And look how much of a nice dark green that created in order to make a shadow for the green color that I have here. That's one of the things that makes me constantly force feed everybody color theory, because if you're working with a limited palette, and I was working with a very strange palette here, it wasn't a planned palette aside from the names of each one of the colors. That's why they made it into the watercolor limericks thingy booklet zine. So I was stuck with, okay, what do I have here that I could make a dark green out of? And I could have probably used that dark purple. That is sometimes a color that will work. But hey, why not mix it with its complement? And if you put enough of the green in it, it'll have more of a green flavor. But if you're working with reds and you need a darker red, you can see in the puddle, there's a nice dark red where the green is really seeping into it. So you can mix it to different consistencies to get the dark color that you need for shadows. So that is pretty cool. Now, since I have all of these pictures from this little booklet in digital form in black and white, I'm going to put some of them as printables in the shop. So if you would like to get them, print them, color them with whatever medium you want, that'd be great. However, just know that if you want to watercolor something, getting a printable is not always going to work with your printer. My printer is really terrible about the printer ink bleeding. So I can't use any printable images that I print on that printer because it's just simply not going to work. Um, so I I put that forth in case you think, oh, I'm just going to print all my nature journaling out because Sandy's got all these images. Just know that if you're trying to watercolor, test your printer first. So just print a page of anything that's black and white. It could be text or whatever, and then run some watercolor over it and see what happens. Does the ink bleed? Does it get all messy and weird? Mine gets not completely blown out completely unless I really throw on a ton of water, but it doesn't do a great job. And I'll show you a little clip of that in just a minute because I did try to do a little bit of watercoloring on one sample page because I thought I'd try printing it to see. Because one of the things that I also did, in addition to having the regular color nature journaling resource guide, I've also made a black and white nature journaling resource guide. Because I do know after many years of doing this that there are a number of you who have found a printer that does watercolorable printing, waterproof ink. And that's just not something I have ever found. If you have a printer that has waterproof ink that you can watercolor over it, do me a favor and leave a comment with what the name of that printer is so that everybody can go look in the comments if they want to go get a printer that does watercolor. So that would be awesome. Be a resource for your friends. So here I'm just adding in more darks into the reds. You can see I'm grabbing from that really dark red puddle, and it suddenly adds a lot more contrast into the flowers themselves, which is pretty cool. And then I'm just mixing the other colors to, get an orange that I wanted to have for my flowers to add more detail to them. So lots of fun painting things in with wacky colors that you didn't really plan on in the first place. And learning something about these prickly pear cactus while I was doing it was all to the good. I kind of mentally did the same thing for each one of the pictures that I drew for this little booklet, just looking up what it was and all that sort of thing. On my Substack, I have put links to the original photos that I worked from, and they're not drawn perfectly from them, but they'll give you a good idea of the colors. So if you end up getting the black and white one and you want to, print it and color it, then you can. Now, to make the booklet, you print it out. Tell your printer to print it two-sided and do it on the short side, not the long side. If you do the long side, then the pages will flip upside down. But the PDF for the color one is set up so that it will print as a booklet. It also has this white border around it. And the reason is because some people might just want to leave the white border. It kind of gives them a little breathing room. But also you could trim it down. But I would recommend not trimming it down until after you get it stitched. And stitched means stapled or something. I suppose you could sew it. It's not very many pages, but you could sew it. But I'm going to do it with staples. So I'm just going to use a blade to separate a couple staples off of a stack of them, and then just mark them in the spine in the place that I want to put them. So if you just lay it down next to where you want to put it in and put a little pencil line in there, then you can take some kind of pokey tool or a knife or something, poke a hole in there that you can stick this staple through. And for a little book like this, 2 staples is more than enough. Doesn't have to be a ton. I didn't even measure mine, so I have no idea if they're in the even spots, evenly from the top or bottom. You can get as persnickety as you want about that. But I'm just going to shove the staples through, and then this will be a booklet that will stay together. Now, when I originally created this and was kind of working with what size should it be and how should I format it, this felt really big for a booklet that you might want to take with you, because in the back section, there's a whole set of questions to ask yourself about, your subjects and how to think about them when you're out walking around. And that might be something you want to have as a resource when you go out for a hike or something. You might want to tuck this in your bag. So I made it so that you could cut it off on those black lines that are printed, or you could make it a little bit bigger and just leave the black lines there, but make it a little wider. The page numbers are also in that outside white space. So you can cut those off once the book is put together, and then it's a much smaller book. So you might be able to tuck it in a backpack or in your kit or something much more easily. So the first part talks about there not being any particular right or wrong way to do nature journaling. And then we talk about the supplies. These are all QR codes. So if you're somebody brand new and you have no idea, like, where do I find this thing? I just put QR codes on there to some of them. You can, use those links or use whatever links you find on the web, but it'll show you where to find those things. Give you color mixing exercises. So I tell you how to make a color grid, that mixing grid. We talk about different terms for colors, different things that you'll hear when you watch watercolor and ink types of videos about doing your journaling. I give you just lots and lots of questions about your subjects to journal and some unique ideas, things that you can, when you're blank, you don't know what to journal or you don't know what that blank page is going to turn into. It'll give you somewhere to start. So that's the color version. Let's talk about the black and white that is only for those who have waterproof toner in their printer. There's 2 files in there. One, you can print the back-to-back version so that you can, make a booklet out of it and paint that. The other version, see, my printer is really terrible at this. I even get like weird ink things on the surface, which is very strange. But I can kind of do a little watercolor as long as I don't push too much around with the brush, just do a really simple wash. So I may decide to try to paint this one manually, but I don't know. It's a lot to put watercolor paper in there and try to get it to print right. But what I'm doing here is one of the exercises, which you can do on anything. You can draw your own butterfly or whatever and paint the butterfly with a thicker orange and then put water in it and then paint something else that has a lighter color in it. Because I'm assuming there are going to be some people that this is the only watercolor instruction they have for their nature journaling. So I put lots of really good basics in there. So here I added a little bit of red into the mix so I could have a little variation in color. I did end up, bleeding into the other colors enough that it ended up just being pale, but it still shows you the difference between lighter value with a waterier paint and darker value with a thicker mixture. Now, the way I trimmed this, you might want to leave a little extra on one side and just use that for stapling the thing together if you want. So both of those are available. Now, these pictures I'd like to just kind of walk through again because I'm going to put some of them in the shop as printables. And you can either print them with your waterproof toner, or if you color in other mediums and you want to color them, let me know if there's any of them here that you would like to see in the shop. I'm not going to put them all in the shop. That would be kind of silly, but there's some of them that I want to do that with. One of the ones in particular that I'm going to do a little something different with is the daisies that you see in this last one. I'm going to put both of the with the lines in it and the without the lines in it in the shop. So I'm going to put a little teaching along with that one. But if there's any of these other images that you'd like to see in the store, let me know. And next week I'll report back on which ones got into the store. And that's about it for right now. So thank you for subscribing, for hitting the like button, for being members, for being awesome humans. And I will see you again in another week with a new video. I'll see you then. Bye.